your go-to resource for U.S. immigration insights. We provide clear immigration news and information. Our platform provides a network of licensed attorneys who can answer your questions and guide you through the process. From visas to green cards, asylums to citizenships, immigrationquestion.com helps you to network with immigration attorneys so that you can move forward with confidence. Sign up today or download the app. Free registration, limited time offer. Stay tuned. We go live in 30 seconds.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's live webinar brought to you by immigrationquestion.com, a network and platform and meeting ground where immigrants, families, advocates and licensed immigration attorneys come together to learn, exchange information and stay current on US immigration developments. I'm GB Satusa and I'll be your host for today's session, Family-Based Immigration and Defense Against Deportation. Family-based immigration cases are often viewed as a path towards stability and reunification, but for many families, these cases intersect with enforcement issues in unexpected and stressful ways. Pending removal proceedings, prior immigration violations, or past encounters with immigration authorities can dramatically affect eligibility for family petitions, adjustment of status, or consular processing. Without a clear understanding of available defenses and procedural options, families can face prolonged uncertainty or separation. Today's discussion is designed to examine the intersection of family-based immigration and deportation defense. We'll explore how family relationships can influence removal defense strategies, what forms of relief may be available, and how individuals and families can take proactive steps to protect their cases as they navigate the immigration system. To guide us through this important topic, we are joined by Natalie Driver Womack, Esquire. She is a Virginia-based immigration attorney who provides comprehensive legal support to individuals, families, and businesses navigating the U.S. immigration system. Her practice includes extensive work in family-based immigration matters and deportation defense, grounded in careful strategy and client advocacy. Attorney Womack, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, before we begin, a quick note for everyone tuning in. immigrationquestion.com is a public platform created for education and discussion. Attorneys who participate do so independently, and the platform does not provide individualized legal guidance. To everyone joining us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other platforms, welcome. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time. Grab your notepads and let's get started. Now, Attorney Womack, I'd like us to begin by looking at where family-based immigration and deportation defense most often intersect. Now, many families, face both immigration relief and deportation concerns at the same time. Now, from your experience, what are the most common situations where family-based petitions intersect with removal defense?
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think this is a great question because I really don't think people understand how quickly it can intersect, and some of the things in the past, how they will now become factors in your application process. So one factor is if someone has entered the country without inspection, and then now they're later married to someone who can now petition for them. So now there could be an issue with their application, right? It can also be the fact that you may have a family member, a parent, who potentially may have an issue with a criminal issue that could put your parent in removal proceedings. Also for the individual, if they're in lawful permanent resident status, and even some individuals, even after you obtain your citizenship, certain crimes and certain actions that you take could make it to the point where you could find yourself in removal proceedings. And then there could also be instances when you're dealing with the Violence Against Women's Act, and don't let that be it's like a misnomer. It says Women's Act, but is open to anyone who is the victim of domestic violence. So these are intersecting things that happen throughout life. Of course, marriage, your parents may be having an issue, just, now there's domestic violence. These factors that may exist in your life as a factor in your life can also be a result or have some negative ramifications with regards to immigration.
Now, how does having a qualifying family relationship influence strategy for someone who is already facing deportation or removal proceedings?
Right. So I think that, again, excellent point, because even your questions, I think they're great questions, because the reality of the matter is now you find yourself potentially in immigration court, but the fact and the makeup of your family can potentially change that. Okay. So let's say if you have adjustment of status may be available if you are married to a U.S. citizen, right? So you could be in immigration court, but now they would say, do you have a prayer for relief? And you say, Judge, my client here is married to a U.S. citizen. They can adjust their status, and you can adjust your status. Another aspect is dealing with if you have a lawful permanent resident or a U.S. citizen who may qualify you as a result of cancellation of removal, and we can talk about that as well. So those special situations with family members and that special connection to family members can open up various options for citizenship for an individual. And another aspect with family is if there's a hardship in your family. Again, this is just lifing, right? So it's going to happen. But as a result of the things that are happening in your life, they may provide an option for a path to citizenship. But that's one of the reasons why it's very important for you to talk to your attorney. And for my clients, I hear what they say, and I also hear what they don't say, because there may be things in their life that may shed a light on potential paths to citizenship that they may actually have that and just not realize it.
Yeah. Now, when preparing these cases, what documentation or evidence tends to strengthen both a family-based petition and a defense against removal?
Right. So one of the biggest things for clients to remember is that you are submitting this to your documentation to the government or to a judge. So it has to be, not just a copy that shows part of the documentation, and it can't be a copy that's one of 3 pages and you didn't give me page 2 or 3, right? We're submitting it to a government entity or to a judge. So it has to be of the highest level of veracity, and making sure that we are clear that this is in fact, a true and valid record. So with regards to that, you're looking for your marriage certificate. That's very important. You make sure that you always keep that. And even I wanted to grab, I have a little, it's a little folder that keeps various information and what I tell my clients to keep. And it's as you live your life and you say, maybe you go to, you're getting married, you put that marriage certificate right there. You get your joint lease, which is another one, right? And that shows like the fact that you have a joint life together. You put that joint lease right there in the next file folder, right? So the lease, your marriage certificate, your tax returns, that's another one. Keep keeping those tax returns. Make sure that those are important, because that all shows government connections, right? And it's a third party corroboration. It's not just you saying, hey, I'm married. You have a marriage certificate saying you're married, right? Then it's not just saying, hey, I pay taxes. No, you file taxes. The federal government and the state government, they know that you file taxes, okay? Then some personal things that you need to make note of is if you're going through any type of medical issues, because remember, we talked about a hardship. A hardship can be a medical hardship. If you're dealing with financial hardship, keep those documents in that file folder, right? Because as you build this file folder, it not only has different evidence that you need for immigration purposes, for if it's a prayer to relief, right? In instances, it can also be a saving grace, and we'll talk about that again, is the cancellation of removal. Because as you live your life and you gather this file folder and you create a habit for yourself of putting all special documentation into this file folder, things that someone may ask you for, they amazingly are there. And I also have instances where I have clients who may be in detention centers. And when they're in that detention center, they know where the document is. It's in their right drawer off to the left-hand side, right? That's hard for someone to find. But if you start keeping that file folder of important events that happen in your life, you will have it in the event that a horrible thing may happen. Then it's easier to obtain, and your attorneys can work a lot faster for you. So those are mainly the things. And another aspect is psychological evaluations. Individuals who are dealing with submissions that have an element where the government cannot see. So if you have a claim of domestic abuse, you have the claim that there's some form of financial abuse, any form of validation that a third party can provide. If it's not a police report, then maybe it's a psychological evaluation. It shows evidences of the trauma that someone cannot physically see or that you cannot put on a paper. That psychological evaluation would do it. So those are the types of things that you definitely want to keep all of those things as you're living your life. Make it a habit to start just creating that accordion file folder and filing it away. And I also say keep it physically and electronically.
Now, relief options can overlap in complex ways. How do pathways like adjustment of status or cancellation of removal or waivers of inadmissibility factor in when deportation is a risk?
Okay, so those are all basically what I consider tools in the toolkit, right? So you're always like trying to pull out something. So when talking to your client, you want to know, tell me about your life makeup, right? And one of the first things is, how did you come into the country? That's always very important. So if you've come into the country and now you've come in illegally, now we have to determine, I think we may need a waiver here, okay? So now we're talking about potential waivers, what we'll have to do, paperwork filing. And it's, again, toolbox, something that you pull out when now you are in a deportation status. Like, wait, we filed a 601, we're in the process of getting that approved, okay? Another aspect of trying to pull things out of the toolbox is, okay, now when I know your background, if you tell me, yes, I'm married, and I'm married to a military individual, okay? The minute you tell me that I'm married to someone who's military, now I pull something out of my toolbox again, right? So now I know that I have parole in place, and your illegal entry can be forgiven as long as we get the parole in place accepted prior to your submission to USCIS. Now, normally with the process or the flow, let's say if you're in removal proceedings, when you're in removal proceedings and you're in the process of filing or haven't filed yet, that's when you want to make sure that you're filing before you go to immigration court. And those things, those are when those toolkits, when it comes into play. When you file something for adjustment of status, maybe you say there's cancellation of removal. And the biggest thing for cancellation of removal, which is kind of, it's almost your Hail Mary, but it's an effective Hail Mary, is making sure that that accordion file folder that you keep physically and electronically is available, because that is everything for your proof process. That can unlock citizenship for you.
Now, what timing or procedural pitfalls do families often encounter when trying to navigate family-based immigration and removal defense simultaneously?
Right. So I think it is essential that if you have any taps with USCIS, you make sure first and foremost that you're always updating your AR-11, right? Which is a form that's on USCIS that makes sure that they know where you live, because that is how communications will come to you. Or if you're on the online system, you're going to have to continuously check the online. So if you're in this process, I tell my clients to basically just be on guard all the time, looking for your mail, looking for your email until this process is over. Because missing a request for additional evidence, which is known as an RFE, missing the fact that there's an immigration court date can have huge ramifications. And here's an example, okay? Let's say if you're in the process for USCIS and you're doing a marriage base, you have a wonderful marriage, you know, everyone is singing your praises, but maybe you didn't notify USCIS that you moved and you get an RFE for something small. Maybe it's like, we have your 2001, 2002, but we wanted your 2003 tax returns, okay? Something simple. If you don't have that RFE with the ability to respond, then you can get a denial. Getting a denial can now trigger you being in immigration court just that quick. Okay. So that is the main reason why making sure that the AR-11, and it's on USCIS's website, it's uscis.gov. And if you can't find it yourself, just simply go into off to the right. It has a Ask Emma. You can put in there looking for a form to update the address. It'll pull it up for you. You want to make sure that you're staying on top of that. See, that's an example of how a simple petitioning can result in a notice to appear. Okay. So, and also when you're dealing with the fact that maybe you have gotten this NTA and then you do not go to immigration court, then you're saying, I didn't even know that there was an actual hearing. You can have an order of removal in absentia. And what that means is we ordered you removed even though you were absent. And now you have to figure out, what do? You only have 90 days to appeal that. And there's only certain select examples of when it can be an exception. So those factors of making sure that you're on top of any type of timing and anything that's dealing with your mail, be it physical or electronic, is essential for your process.
Yeah. Now, for families supporting a loved one in removal proceedings, what practical planning steps can help protect both the family petition and the individual's immigration status?
I am sorry. I think it timed out. Could you read the question again?
All right. Now, for families supporting a loved one in removal proceedings, what practical planning steps can help protect both the family petition and the individual's immigration status?
I gotcha. Okay. So you want to make sure that if at any point you have the ability to file something for someone, and again, that's like even if you're in removal proceedings, but maybe there's a potential that you could file this document, and as a result of this document or this qualifying relationship, then you can unlock a certain immigration status, right? So that's very important. Another aspect is make sure that you're going to absolutely every single court hearing. Don't think that you don't have to go to anything, okay? And then another pitfall is the fact of thinking that you can travel, okay? So you may potentially try to travel and you may not have the travel documentation or the ability to travel, and that can be an issue. And another thing that I see that families don't do that they need to do is plan for contingencies. Okay. So how I say, and I liken it to my daughter, is we play out all of our horrible what ifs. Nobody wants to. Hello.
All right, we have you back at 10.
I don't know what happened. I do apologize.
No
So
problem.
So like you play out all your horrible what ifs. And when you plan out all your horrible what ifs, then you are prepared. Even just simply living, and I live in Virginia and we had a storm. And again, I liken this to how I prep my daughter and how we prep our lives. We have what is considered a go bag. And I think undocumented individuals or individuals who think that immigration could potentially be an issue, okay, you need to have a go bag, right? And in your go bag, it would have it to the point where you have money, you have all the documentation, copies of the documentations that you need. And if you needed, say, like a phone that you could actually turn on, like a track phone that you could turn on and start working, okay? Because in instances, if someone is set to be deported, they may allow a family member to come and drop off a bag, and then you wouldn't be going to a new country, or you would not be going to a country that you haven't been to without any type of, anything, right? So you would then have your immigration papers, you would have documentation, ID, so that you wouldn't be destitute as soon as you were deported if you had to be deported. So I think it's very important to have that go bag. Also, I think before you get to that go bag, again, it's that accordion file folder of physically having all of your documents physically and also having it electronically. And you have to be aware that immigration defense is not simple and it's costly. So I think that it's important that individuals start saving money, because you don't want money to be what stops you from actually obtaining something that you are in, that you can actually obtain. Because I see a lot of times it may be the issue of money that stops various things, and you don't want that to be the issue. So get your physical papers in a go bag, your actual go bag, and then also making sure that you have your finances together, and give access to family members that you are very close with, so that they have access to your account in the event that you needed something.
This has been truly interesting. Thanks for those insights, attorney. Now, for everyone watching, cases that involve both family-based immigration and enforcement issues require careful planning, coordination, and an understanding of how different processes interact. Knowing where risks exist and how relief options align can make a meaningful difference over time. If you've just joined us, welcome. ImmigrationQuestion.com is a networking platform where users can ask immigration related questions at no cost and engage with participating attorneys. We're also proud to announce that ImmigrationQuestion.com is Triple B accredited and ISO certified, reflecting our commitment to transparency, accountability, community education, and security. Now, Attorney Womack, based on your experience and regular appearance on our live stream, how do platforms like immigrationquestion.com help immigrants and immigration attorneys like yourself?
So I think it's helpful because it provides you with a connection and a nexus to actual individuals who can help you through the process. And I think Immigration Questions stands out above the rest because of the individuals who work here. Like, you guys are amazing. And even just simply getting this topic for individuals, it's the staff that's here that are hearing the questions that are being asked by individuals, understanding and taking a temperature check to see what's going on in the world. And the person that I work with all the time, Hyra, she's the one. She knew that this was a subject matter that individuals needed, and knew that this was something that is very close to my heart. So it's like Immigration Question is a connection to individuals who can actually do something for you. But those individuals who are connecting you here at Immigration Question, they really are listening to what your needs are. So that's one of the reasons why I truly love being with Immigration Question. I think it's top
Thank you
notch.
so much, Attorney Womack, for
Of course.
those thoughts. We appreciate that. Now, before we get into our live Q&A session, I'd like to ask one more. For families who feel pressure to file quickly or pursue a family based petition while removal proceedings are pending, what warnings or warning signs should prompt them to slow down and reassess their strategy before moving forward?
Okay, I think that's excellent. First, the thing of it is do nothing quick. The minute that someone says, do it, do it, do it, do it now, that's when you're like, nope, I'm not gonna do it now. And that is the problem that gets individuals into immigration court. Okay. So it's important to also, when you are thinking about your application process, vetting the attorneys that you're talking to, vetting the community that you're using to connect you to attorneys. You don't want to connect to individuals who are just ready to collect a dollar, right? This is your life. Okay. So, individuals, you may have the ability and the option to apply, but is it smart, right? So you may be saying like, quick, 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 do this, right? File this for me because, you would be able to now, I don't know, if I'm in immigration court, because I'm married to you, you're a US citizen, and now maybe you can petition for me. Possibly, but it takes someone to truly vet your US spouse to determine whether or not that could be a successful petition or petition that would fail. And you do not want a petition to fail while you have an immigration court at your back, right? So it may be like, okay, that's a potential, but let's vet out what your potentials truly could be before we just quickly do something. Never do anything in haste. Never, especially with immigration. You want to make sure that it is thought through and is strategic.
If you've just joined us, we've been speaking with Natalie Driver Womack, Esquire, on family based immigration and defense against deportation. We are now moving into our live Q&A session. This is your opportunity to ask questions directly to a licensed immigration attorney. Drop your questions in our live chat at 516-703-3483, and we'll take as many as possible. Is filing I-130 for my spouse enough to stop ICE from deporting them?
Absolutely not. No. An I-130 is just simply saying, I have a qualifying relationship. Okay. An I-130 can be good to get you a receipt notice, but if your spouse has certain backgrounds with crimes, then it doesn't matter that you filed an I-130. Okay. You can have, um, the I-130 is helpful, but it doesn't do everything. And also, just as a side note, I discourage filing just an I-130. You need to file, if you're in country, you need to file an I-130 and an I-45, because you will create a time lapse with regards to your processing. You will go much quicker if you do the I-130 and the I-45 at the same time. But if you're doing it to stop deportation, to me, that sounds like there may be some other issues that need to be looked into.
All right. Can family laws like the American Families United Act help prevent deportation now?
It is just a different time. Things that you could pull out of your toolkit to help or to pause or to delay some things, it's not there. So I understand that, there's various things that are available, but you do have to be very mindful that there are only certain things that truly will stop a deportation.
All right. Please, if I entered illegally but later married a US citizen, can I still face deportation?
Excellent question. So, direct answer is yes, you can. But what you would do is you would go through the process of filing a waiver. Okay, depending on how long you've been in the country, you would do a 601 one waiver or 601A waiver, and just kind of you would have to assess the whole situation, and you would apply for a waiver. And again, you're applying for that waiver, and you have to wait, right? And then you go through your application process, and that allows you to be in the system. So it will show that you have something pending. I prefer to do something like that versus just an I-130, because the earlier question, your I is only to show that you have a qualified marriage. Okay. So they're like, yeah, you're married, but it doesn't mean that this individual is eligible for citizenship. And that's what the I-485 does. So when you're going through this process of saying we're filing a waiver because we're in the process of going through the whole adjustment of status process, then that leaves a little bit more of a protections. But protections are hard.
All right. All right. Thank you for those apt responses to the questions from our audience. Now, before we wrap up, let's take a look at what is happening with TPS, attorney. Recent developments include a federal judge blocking the Trump administration from ending temporary protected status for Haitian nationals. Attorney Womack, how should families following cases like this understand the relationship between humanitarian protections, family based immigration, and deportation defense when policy shifts or court rulings occur?
Right. So this was a happy ruling for, of course, a lot of Haitian Americans and just individuals also who are under TPS status from other countries. So just to make sure that we're fully aware, TPS means temporary protected status, and it's because there's a humanitarian issue that is going on in your country because of war, because of crime, something in another country that prevents you from returning. Now, the T stands for temporary, that it only allows you protection from being deported. Okay. But as soon as the president or executive and through the executive administration says that there's no longer a fear, then that temporary status is taken away. And when that temporary status is taken away, you will have to return to your country or either find a new path to citizenship through, applying for another visa. For individuals that I know that have TPS, I'm always looking to try to figure out if there is another path to citizenship for them. And I'm always working to try to figure that out. And that's what you should do if you are on TPS. In addition to the fact that if you've been in the country and you have TPS, it is essential that you start creating that file folder with all the accordion information, because you're opening up a potentially a defense if that temporary status is removed, you haven't applied for anything, and then maybe you can show through the cancellation of removal that you are someone who should not be deported. In essence, you can allow your citizenship, because just in case, maybe like you have a child who is a US citizen, maybe they're underage and they cannot petition for your citizenship, but under cancellation of removal, if you have all the other elements, then that child can now serve as the US citizen who is dependent upon you, or there may be a hardship with your child. So those are the various things to keep in mind with TPS. Yes, we have a block for it. It won't be removed for now, but you need to stay vigilant. Make sure you're connected to things like this immigration question. Make sure you're staying aware of all the breaking news with regards to immigration. Just stay vigilant so that you're aware.
Thank you so much, Attorney Natalie Driver Womack, for sharing your time and insight today. Your perspective helps clarify how family-based immigration and deportation defense intersect in ways many families may not anticipate. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us today. We hope this discussion provides clarity, awareness, and a practical understanding of how family relationships can play a critical role in navigating enforcement risks. You can always catch this today's webinar, and you can always join us on immigrationquestion.com to ask immigration related questions and stay informed about upcoming discussions. If you'd like to revisit today's session or share it with others, the full replay will be available on Spotify soon. Just search Borderless Talk with immigrationquestion.com. Join us next week for another live conversation covering key immigration topics and current developments. Until then, stay informed and stay connected.
Thank you.